When the Taquari River overflowed in 2024, it didn't just take away houses, bridges, and roads. It also dispelled the illusion that one crossing could significantly protect part of Rio Grande do Sul's gross domestic product. Passing through the same highway corridor during the historic flood, the region came to a halt, trucks got stuck, ambulances had to find unlikely routes, and companies stopped production because there simply was no safe way through. It was then that an old idea, talked about for more than half a century, stopped being just a dream of local leadership and became a matter of logistical survival. Build a raised link between Cruzeiro do Sul and Estrela that remains intact even when the Taquari River floods. The Vale Bridge was born exactly from this reality check. A 3.1-kilometer-long structure at a high elevation designed to withstand extreme winds, to reorganize the flow between BR 386 and RS 287, and on top of that, to redesign the economic map of the Taquari and Rio Pardo valleys. Stay with us and find out how this project promises to actually change the way Rio Grande do Sul crosses into its own future. The new crossing is being built in the heart of the Taquari Valley, a central region of Rio Grande do Sul made up of 40 municipalities. On one side, IRS 130 in Cruzeiro do Sul. On the other, IRS 129, the Transanta Rita in Estrela, the area that is already starting to be considered the city's future main access point. On paper, the whole project adds up to about 3.1 kilometers of infrastructure. About 1.2 kilometers is the main bridge over the river. The remainder covers overpasses and embankment access roads. All are built above the 2024 historic flood level with a safety margin in the beams. The structure will have 2 traffic lanes and side shoulders, prepared for a daily flow of over 11,000 vehicles, serving as a bypass ring between BR 386 and RS 287. In terms of proportion, it's like lining up almost 30 soccer fields end to end over the Taquari River, creating a backbone capable of supporting unloaded trucks, buses, cars, and the daily routine of thousands of people every day. Soon a question arises. Why did this bridge, in this location and at this moment, become an absolute priority for the state, mayors, and the productive sector? Contrary to what many might think, the idea of a new connection between Estrela and Cruzeiro do Sul is not a recent topic. Studies and route sketches have circulated for over 50 years. However, 2 things were missing that rarely coincide: clear political urgency and resources matching the project's scale. In fact, the historic flood of 2024 changed the game when the BR 386 bridge became overloaded, with the risk of isolation. The huge logistical bottleneck stopped being just a statistic and became a direct experience for those who depend on the road to work, produce, sell, or get care at the regional hospital. At the same time, the state set up the Rio Grande Plan Fund, FUNREEX, to finance construction and resilience actions. That's when Ponte dos Vales became a key infrastructure project, not just to replace what has already been lost, but to create redundancy between the Taquari and Rio do Pardo valleys, Serra, Planalto, and Missões. Politically, mobility became visible. The mayor of Estrela, Karine Schwingel, took on the public defense of the project, linking the bridge to a larger package of urban transformation, duplication of the Transanta Rita, new gateway, organizing growth, and creating a safe corridor outside the areas at highest risk of flooding. She appears in campaigns such as the Bridge of the Valleys, the bridge everyone needs so we never have to stop again, in meetings with the state government and organizations like CASIS and SIC Vale do Taquari, helping to connect mayors in the state around a single goal. Alongside her, neighboring mayors, business organizations, and the freight transport sector began to advocate for the bridge as a regional ring road, able to protect a corridor through which tens of billions of reais in goods circulate every year. Technical pressure, political coordination, and FUNREEX's financing led to the contract signing in December 2025. Investment of about R$288 million. But in practice, how does this agreement go from the official gazette to becoming concrete? Steel and elevated access roads over one of the state's most important rivers. In December 2025, the Vales Bridge stopped being just a set of blueprints, maps, and discussions. With the contract signed by the state government and the Novo Vale Consortium, made up of companies with a history in major road projects, the field phase began. When this documentary finished, drilling machines were already operating on the Estrella Bank, starting what to the layperson may seem like little, but to the engineer is the foundation of everything. The contracted project with integrated contracting combines the executive project and construction in a single package. The schedule is tight, 18 months for execution, with delivery expected by May 2027, respecting the window for using Furridge's resources and the context of post-flood reconstruction. In the first 4 months, the focus is on drilling detailed underground surveys and completion of the executive project. Next come the foundations, pillars, installation of metal beams, concreting of the slab, and final paving of the access roads, all happening simultaneously. By the way, this is where the technological ingredient comes in that allows us to take on such an aggressive schedule. The accelerated bridge construction method, or simply accelerated bridge construction. Instead of building everything inch by inch within the riverbed, an important part of the metal structure is prefabricated in off-site yards, assembled in modules, and then launched over the Taquari either by pushing or in sections. This module lessens direct interference in the river. It reduces risks during floods and concentrates heavy activities in more controlled environments, increasing worker safety and schedule predictability. The first weeks of geotechnical drilling are used to unravel and decipher the behavior of the ground, the depth of the rock, the thickness of weaker soil layers, and the presence of unconsolidated materials. With this data in hand, the foundation design defines deep piles, either driven or drilled down to the sandrock. They are capable of supporting not only the weight of the bridge and vehicles themselves, but also wind forces, currents, and possible impacts. In the next stage, the pillars that will rise from the Taquari riverbed are built. Each support needs to be designed to work with large metal spans, some of them hundreds of meters long, and with variations in the river's water level in extreme scenarios. On top of these pillars, main and secondary metal beams create the backbone of the bridge, which then receives the cast-in-place concrete slab, forming the platform where vehicles will travel. In parallel with the main span, the teams will advance on the elevated access points and earthworks on both sides. The bridge will be built to operate above the 2024 level. It's not enough to build only the sections over water. Ramps and viaducts are needed to keep the road level and avoid steps or bottlenecks where water could collect. Another challenge is purely logistical and legal timing, beyond engineering. The contract was signed under the state of emergency decree, requiring close coordination between the State Attorney General's office, UDEA, mayors, and local leaders, so as not to miss the timing. Any significant delay could mean losing the opportunity for financing under exceptional conditions, pushing the project back into the realm of promises. The project must also fit with the region's daily routine. Setback construction sites, temporary detours, and ongoing communication with the community will help reduce the impact of the construction site. In the lives of those who work, study, or depend on the Transantarita and EERS 130, if everything goes as planned, the final concentrated stages will bring paving, signage, protective barriers, lighting, final drainage system, and load testing. It's the phase when the project's outline stops being an abstraction, and the Ponte dos Vales finally starts to be seen as the new daily route. First for the residents themselves, then for the truck drivers, and finally for the entire production chain that depends on this corridor. When we talk about 3.1 kilometers of bridge and elevated approaches, it's easy to lose track of the scale in total length. The Ponte dos Vales is much smaller than giants like the Rio Niterói Bridge, which is over 13 kilometers long, but it comes close to icons like the Golden Gate in San Francisco, which is just under 2.8 kilometers. In other words, it's a project on the scale of major urban crossings around the world, built in a developing rural region. The estimated budget is around $200.00. The Ponte dos Vales, like other key bridges such as those over the Guaíba and Forqueta rivers, is also linked to construction in Rio Grande do Sul. It's a high amount, but it's applied exactly where the system showed its greatest vulnerability, translating into everyday life. That $288 million could buy about 4,000 economy cars at $70,000 each, or fund 4 to 5 regional hospitals. The capacity of about 11,000 vehicles per day relieves an important part of the BR 386 and ERS 130, acting as a real fuse for the system. When one axis collapses, the other holds the load. In mobility models, the Ponte dos Vales tends to play a role similar to BR 448 or ring roads in cities like Florianopolis and Itajaí. It's not just another crossing, it's a structuring bypass that reorganizes traffic flow and allows cities to grow without focusing only on through traffic. The Ponte dos Vales isn't alone. It brings along a set of projects that reposition Estrela, Cruzeiro do Sul, and the entire Vale do Taquari on the state's logistics map in Estrela. Mayor Karine Schwinger has already linked the new crossing to the duplication of the Transantarita, an investment estimated at around $1 million, with a bike lane, sidewalk, and a new access gate. Economically, the bridge offers an alternative route between BR 386 S287, shortening routes for agribusiness, the food industry, the transportation of supplies, and the movement of workers. Less time in traffic jams means lower freight costs, more predictability, and more competitiveness for those who produce in the region. On the social side, the new connection strengthens emergency resilience. Ambulances, civil defense, firefighters, and rescue teams now have another safe way to cross the Taquari, lowering isolation risks. In the medium term, the area around Transantarita and ERS 130 is expected to receive subdivisions, condominiums, warehouses, and services related to this new axis. A transformation that, if well planned, turns the scar of floods into an opportunity for safer and smarter urban development. The Ponte dos Vales serves as both a response and a form of anticipation. It responds to the greatest climate tragedy in Rio's recent history and anticipates new extreme events by creating redundancy where there was once dependence on a single crossing. The key point is to ensure that the next time the Taquari rises, the region won't have to stop and wait for the water to recede again. Thanks for watching until the end. What are your thoughts on the Great Bridge of the Valleys, awaited for over 50 years? It really is a privilege that it's already taking its first steps, isn't it? If you're from the area and have more info, I'd love to read it all. And we here at Construction Time will definitely be following the development of this important infrastructure. I'll wrap it up here. A big hug and see you in the next video.